Badgers. Another WIP and chat. I've actually been meaning to do this one for a few days because the topic is sort of topical, news topical, I guess, but not so much now because it's it's a few days past, and that's how news tends to work. Is me talking about it now, the world's probably going to be like, yeah, we're over it already because, like the day or two after then the Pope died, right? So I wanted to talk about the whole Blue Origin flight because I found the whole thing sort of amusing in a way. I was kind of surprised by the outrage that people were expressing. Yeah, like I said, I found it kind of funny, but yeah, I was kind of surprised when the next day came out and there were news reports everywhere of people were just like really mad. People were posting things, like regular people were posting things online. Celebrities were going off about it. Yeah, so the whole Blue Origin flight, what was your guys' take on that? I did watch the launch just out of curiosity because from childhood I was always somebody that was really into space and space flight and stars and galaxies and all of that stuff. If you guys remember the movie from a long time ago, I think it was originally made back in the 80s. I don't think I saw it till the 90s, but I think it was originally made back in the 80s, but it was just called Space Camp. I got obsessed with that idea. I thought that would be so cool to be a kid that could go to space camp and meet other kids that were nerdy. Yeah, that never happened for me, but I thought it was a really cool idea. And the movie made it seem like a lot of fun. But when I was a kid, I was into all of this space stuff, and when I got into, I think it was junior high, I was put into my school systems. They call it different things in different parts of the country, but typically it's called the gifted program. In my school system, it was called GATE, which is Gifted and Talented Education. But basically, it's whatever your school system calls the gifted kids. I remember when I was in school, I didn't even know what that meant. I just got pulled aside one day in school, and they just put me in this separate empty classroom with a bunch of my friends, and they didn't know what was going on. And then they told us they were calling our parents, and we're like, we didn't do anything. And yeah, and then we found out that we were there to be tested, I guess, just out of the blue for some reason. And I guess they decided that I was high enough in my scoring that I fit into the gifted program. And so one of the things that they did with our school is a lot of our gifted program in my school system, it really just meant that we got extra work in class, which was kind of jacked. And they were just like, oh, well, you're going to get bored easily, so we're going to give you more assignments to do. But the flip side of that was we got to go on a lot of cool excursions that other kids in school didn't get to go on because they called them the, gifted excursions or trips or whatever to mentally stimulate us. And one of the things that my school arranged for this group of us to do was to go to, I think it was SDSU, San Diego State University, and go to this seminar they were doing for promoting women in science. And one of the things we got to do was I got to meet Ellen Ochoa, who's I think she's retired now, but back in the 90s, she was still an active astronaut. And then I think I looked it up earlier just to see when it was, because I don't remember the years. And I think NASA said between 2013 and 2018, she served as director of the Johnson Space Center. And for the longest time, when people, when you get to talking with your friends and stuff, and they talk about like, oh, who was your coolest celebrity interaction? And I'd say Ellen Ochoa. Nobody knows who the hell that is a lot of times. But she actually ended up being the first Latina in space. She went up in 1993 and became the first Latina woman in space. And so yeah, I got to meet her when I was a kid, and we had this whole back and forth about sciencey stuff and me geeking out about the planets. And my mom was there at this trip, and so my mom was sharing stories with Ellen about how geeky I was about space and planetary stuff and all of that. And so it was a really cool meeting. She's super nice. And to this day, she's still, in my mind, it was a celebrity meeting for me. I know a lot of people tend to sort of just group celebrities as like singers, actors, comedians, something like that. But for me, that was a celebrity meeting. And to this day, I still consider it one of my favorite celebrity interactions, because a lot of my celebrity interactions have been kind of, wow, I probably should have just kept you on the screen. Because a lot of times that you can have that experience of like, don't meet your heroes. Yeah, I've had a few experiences where I got to meet my heroes and they were painfully disappointing in person. But that one was a really cool experience. And so going back to the Blue Origin flight, I had that in mind when I was watching the launch of the Blue Origin flight. And it was, what's the word I'm looking for? It was, in every sense, a true launch. The thing that kind of bugged me, that I saw in a lot of other videos that ended up bugging a lot of other people, was I was watching the launch where they had the two women doing the commentary, and I was trying to think of what the word would be, because in sports it's sportscasting, but I don't know what you would call it for space, because space casting sounds sort of witchy and weird. Yeah, they kept talking about these women going to space, and they kept calling them astronauts. And my little geeky self from back in the day was still like, I feel like that's a little generous to be calling them astronauts and saying they're going to space, because I couldn't remember all the words to the layers, but from the knowledge I remember from reading about this as a kid, I kept telling myself, watching the Blue Origin launch, I'm like, I don't think they're technically in space the way people are thinking about it. Like, and even the way that like Gayle King and Katy Perry were talking about it, they were making themselves sound like they were going to the moon or something. And I was just like, am I misunderstanding? I feel like they're still in the Earth's atmosphere. And because when I watched it, they were just showing the launch going up, and they were using the microphones from inside the pod, or whatever you call it, the capsule. Let me just a second figure out which one I was working on here. I guess I'll go with this one. They weren't showing, from what I remember, they didn't show any of the interior camera video footage until after the capsule came back down and they were doing their like post flight wrap up interviews and all that. I think like the next day the footage from inside the capsule started coming out. And when they showed the little footage of what they were looking at out the window, I was looking at it going, yeah, that looks like they're still in the atmosphere. And this is not me trying to diminish what that probably felt like, because anytime I've heard any astronaut talk about that experience of looking at the planet from that height, they all say it's very naturally, obviously amazing, and you feel connected to everyone, and you feel, the smallness of yourself and everything. So I don't knock that it was probably a really cool experience. It was just, I felt like calling those women astronauts and saying they were going into space, it sort of diminishes what actual astronauts do. Because like even Katy Perry's out there talking about her training. And I was like, what training? Because like I heard almost nothing about the flight in the news prior to, like, the only thing I saw prior to the launch was a few clips of Gayle King going on and on about how she didn't want to go and how she kept having to have, like, she was having phone conversations with Katy Perry trying to talk her into doing it. And she said eventually she ended up deciding to do it because it sounded like basically Oprah pressured her to do it. So yeah, it was a lot of footage of like, I don't know if I even want to go. And that was the only thing I heard about this flight prior to it. So I was just wondering, like, what training did they do? Why was that not mentioned anywhere? And then I found out it was like a 2-day debriefing, or briefing, I guess. Technically briefing. But yeah, it was basically like a 2-day conference meeting. And I was like, oh, that was the training? It's like basically what most of us go through when we start a retail job. Go through the 2-day training period or whatever it is. So yeah, my initial feeling was just like it felt kind of disrespectful to actual astronauts who train their whole life. Because for actual astronauts, it takes a really long time to be approved, typically, to get into a space flight. Like you can get hired on at NASA and technically get hired on in a astronaut position, but it might take years for you to actually get to space. And in that time, you're still training like crazy and doing all the science behind it and all that. And so yeah, that's why I felt like it was a little disrespectful to the amount of work that goes into actually getting those positions in NASA for some celebrities to be slingshot up into space on what looked like a dildo rocket. That was one of the things that amused me, is that first clip I saw of the rocket going to space, and I was like, did they have to shape it like that? Because they kept advertising it as like it's monumental because it's an all-female crew. I'm like, okay, but did they have to go up into like a dildo rocket? Because now like everybody's just laughing. You wanted people to take women in science seriously, and then you went up in that. So yeah, that was my initial take when I saw that. And the exit interviews the next few days I found pretty comical. Because like that one where like I didn't mind Katy Perry's at first when she was talking about how she felt very small and connected to love and all of that, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then she went into that bit about the whole divine feminine business, and I was just like, girl, what? And then the footage came out of like when she was showing the daisy on camera, and I thought that was cute because it was a nod to her daughter. But then she like pulled out that thing that was like the set list for her upcoming concert, and I was like, is this just a big Instagram ad? What is this? And then it kept going, like all this footage. It felt like minutes of Katy Perry just eye fucking this camera. It was just like, I thought we were there for the science. Which is funny because I had that feeling again when talking about the exit interviews. Or I don't know if this one, the clip I saw, can't remember if it was pre-flight or post-flight, but they were talking to because they said that there were actually 2 or 3 of the women were actual scientists. And one of them was a rocket scientist named Aisha Bowe. And I was listening to her interview, and I kind of cringed a little bit just because of the way the whole flight played out. She said, we collected data and we added to the knowledge base of what people know about women. And I was just like, did we? What? Did we? Like, the knowledge base that we can shoot up women into the atmosphere on this dildo-shaped rocket, and even up there, they'll squeal like a gaggle of Nashville woohoo girls on a bachelorette party? Like, did we need that in the knowledge base? Because I feel like that's the big takeaway we got from whatever went on up there. I didn't see anybody like measuring anything or writing anything down on clipboards. Like, I don't know what data was gathered up there that is going to be monumentally significant. But who knows? Maybe something will come out down the road. But for right now, it's a little bit awkward because, yeah, it just looked like a bachelorette party up there. Because that was one of the things that came out with, I think it was Gayle King's exit interview. She said, at first, again, I was cringing a little bit because, I saw the clips she was doing where she was kind of pissy about people not being more enamored with how the thing turned out and people having criticisms. And she started with, oh gosh, when a man does something and when a man goes to space, I'm like, oh girl, stop. Don't go down that road. It's not that deep. But then she went on to say, what you're doing in space is trying to make things better on Earth. Blue Origin wants to figure out a way to take waste here and put it into space. And again, I cringed a little bit because I was like, those are funny words when you're talking about something that shot up a bunch of celebrities into space. That's not to be mean towards celebrities. It's just, I'm just laughing at the way this whole thing kind of went down and was handled. It's not like it was a big Mars trip or something, like, because yeah, they had a couple of scientists up there, but primarily the publicity, and maybe that's what did it a disservice. The bulk of the publicity came from Katy Perry and Gayle King and what's her name, Lauren Sanchez, which I'm guessing, like, I don't know what she would have contributed. I'm guessing she was up there mainly because Jeff Bezos is her fiance and he was funding this whole thing. Everybody else was up there, I guess, just because I heard it was like $150,000 price tag to go up there. And like $150,000 or sleep with Jeff Bezos. I don't need to go to space that bad. It's fine. I can wait until the price comes down a little bit and they smooth out that ride and maybe put some actual trained astronauts in the cockpit. Once we get to that period, maybe I'll think about going to space. Until then, I'll just have my little internal dreams of one day being part of Starfleet Academy. The one thing that I thought was another kind of big disservice on the whole thing, the whole trip, was that all these women were talking about, it's girl power, and, Katy Perry was talking about like, oh, we're not taking up space, we're making it. I'm like, I don't even know what that means for the rest of us on the planet. Like, I don't know who you made space for. Like, bigger problems in the world right now, like most women most women on Earth right now are pretty much consumed with just trying to figure out how to keep their families from not starving. And so I get why people were mad about it. The level of outrage I was kind of surprised about, because I feel like it's one of those things where it's just like, it's their money. I get that it's cringy because of, current times and current environment. And yeah, there are plenty of times where you see something from a celebrity where they'll post on their social media something they did with their money that will look frivolous to a lot of the rest of us. Because I see it myself. There are things where, certain celebrities that I'll generally have respect for, and then they'll post something where they're like flaunting their wealth at a time where they have to know that so many people are struggling. I get that it's cringy because even I feel it but internally I just kind of go, that's a shame. You could have read the room a little bit better. Maybe it's not the time right now. But at the same time, I am a believer in that it's their money. We're all guilty of throwing money at things that are going to be frivolous from time to time, just because we have the means to do it, or it makes us feel better. And maybe it'll look frivolous to other people, but it'll be important to us. Like, I don't know, like, I just you gotta not be so far up into people's financial business or business in general, but especially financial business. I get that it's cringy, but I think the hard part with celebrity is that, like, people in general, as a whole, we've all spent money we didn't need to spend on stupid stuff just because maybe we were going through something and it made us feel better in the moment or whatever. But I think it's harder on celebrities because it's out there on social media. We have more immediate access to it. But I am one of those people that thinks like the level of outrage some people were showing is, I feel I feel like there's a tinge of jealousy in there, just a little bit, because like oops, I missed a spot up here. I just saw. I just felt like I saw it and I thought it was kind of comical, kind of cringy, but then I went on with my life because I'm just like, well, it's their money, whatever. But even the way other celebrities were coming out and saying, how dare you? And I'm like, talking about consumerism and how hard it is on the environment. And the launch, it is hard on the environment. I just thought it was funny that other celebrities were coming after them when those celebrities, again, they're not free of guilt from spending money on stuff that other people would be like, what? Why? And it's just one of those things. Like, if people have the means to do it, they can do it. I just found the whole level of they're making monumental waves in science kind of funny. But at the end of the day, it's another flight. Like, life goes on. I did think that Wendy's, like the Wendy's restaurant social media account going after them, like especially with Katy Perry, I did feel like that was a little immature as a business stance. I felt like, and I get it that they're trying to be cute, because like a lot of businesses do that online now with their social media accounts. They try to be jokey and cute and trendy and all that. But I felt like that was a little bit unnecessarily unprofessional on their part. So yeah, I just thought I would share some of my thoughts. Oh, I got sidetracked. There was one point I was going to make and I got sidetracked. But I was going to say one of the disservices that I think came from this, as far as like them trying to make it sound like it was a girl power trip, all women crew and all that. I later found out that one of the women on that flight was Amanda Nguyen. I never remember how to pronounce that properly. I think it's like Nguyen. But if you read up on the backstory on her, it turns out that she was actually on a path to become an astronaut. She was studying and everything, but that dream got derailed for her because she suffered a sexual assault, I think in the workplace. I can't remember for sure. But yeah, it basically sidelined her, that whole experience and the trauma and everything. It sidelined her. And she put off her dreams of being an astronaut and instead spent the next 10 years fighting for protective legislation for sexual assault victims. But she was one of the women in this capsule. And I was just thinking, like, why was that not in the news more? Why did they not lead with that story? Why are we making jokes about Katy Perry's upcoming concert and all that stuff when this woman's story was out there? So yeah, I do think that was a bit of a disservice to her, that if you're going to promote it as this girls trip, girls empowerment, women bossing up and taking up space and all that, why would you not lead with this story of this woman who was working towards becoming an astronaut and had to sideline her dreams because she was a sexual assault victim? Yeah, so I don't know. I think it just, I don't knock them for trying stuff. I don't know that it's something that I would want to do, at least, like I said, until they figured out how to smooth out that trip a little bit, because I was just thinking, what's the closest thing I've experienced to that? And I was just thinking, like, years ago when I was at one of the Six Flags parks, and I did the Superman ride once. I think it was the Superman ride where they shoot you straight up. I don't know how many hundreds of feet in the air and then drop you down really fast. And I remember going on that because all my friends were like, oh my God, it's so much fun, you have to do it. And I like roller coasters, but to this day, I still remember the sensation of being on that ride and having that just second or two of zero gravity where that sensation of your stomach being in the back of your throat. Yeah, I did not enjoy that at all. And to this day, because of that one ride I took on the Superman ride, I have no interest in going on those types of roller coasters ever again. Because, yeah, for a split second there, I genuinely thought I was going to throw up my stomach, like out of my body. So yeah, until they smooth out the rides and bring down rides. Oh my gosh, Gail King's gonna come after me. Until they smooth out those types of space flights and make them more affordable and everything. And I use space flight generously because, like I said, when they showed the clip of them looking out the window and you could still see the Earth's atmosphere or the Earth's, topography and all that closely, I just felt like I I had to go look up because I was trying to remember what the layers were from back in the day. And I was just thinking, like, there's got to be an infographic for that. So I went and looked it up and found this one. And so, judging from what they were looking at through that window and how close it was, I'm guessing they never left the troposphere or the stratosphere. I'm guessing that they didn't get past that. So technically, they never left Earth, really. So that's why I thought it was funny when they came back down and you hear the woman over the intercom over the microphone, whatever, she says, welcome back to Earth. And I was like, they never left. So yeah, until they smooth all that out, it's not something that I think I would ever be interested in. But yeah, that's just some of my hot takes from watching that. Feel free to share how you took it down in the comments below. And yeah, I guess that's all I have for this one. Thanks for stopping by. It's a little bit shorter one on the WIP and Chat, but thanks for stopping by, and we will talk soon. Bye, guys.